We're good to go. Okay, this is the October regular monthly meeting of the Woodbridge Board of Finance, October 18th. And first item on our agenda is public comments. And seeing no one here, we'll move on to the second item, which is Finance Director's Report. Tony.
Okay, thank you. This is our first quarterly report for the new fiscal year. And the result shows a budgetary surplus of about $74,000. I want to bring a couple of items to your attention. The first is in state revenue. We received a one-time distribution from a state revenue sharing grant for a little under $60,000. So that's a good thing. In our department revenues, recall we have the revenues for the golf course and the facility. And so each month, by working with our with Billy Casper Golf, I'll be reporting variances or projected variances through the end of the year, so that as it's part of the general fund, we can keep an eye on that, and like any other department. Okay, so currently there's a this is for the fiscal year now. There is a projected shortfall of about $70,000 in revenues. So that's a conservative estimate. It'll change once the membership drive is through November 30th, I think it is, right? So this will change as we evolve. This is an early estimate.
This is from June 30th,
June 30th, 2013, right?
How did we actually end up June 30th, 2012, based on what we had counted on?
Well, that was our because that was it was only a 3-month
Right.
window.
So
We really
we're talking more about June of 2013.
Yeah, we really didn't have
We have a full year.
reliable budget for that time. So this is our first full year
Okay.
with a budget, and so that in the areas that is with revenues. There are currently no variances to our expenditures at the moment
Okay.
that have been identified. On our expenditure side of our budget, the liability insurance, property auto liability is a little higher, came in a little higher than we'd expected. Actually, I think we probably cut it a little too much. So there's some slight shortfall there. And then on Amity, there was a cut to the budget that was late in the process, and it was something timing-wise that didn't make it into our budget. We talked about, so there's a surplus there of $85,000. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Those are our highlights.
Any questions on that? Status of FY12 water tower?
The auditors are here. They've been here. They came on Monday, and they will be here for another. They have booked 3 weeks, but they never spend 3 weeks. They'll probably be here for 2 weeks, and so they've gone through our trial balance and our cash accounts and all of our large expenditures. They've done some more testing. They've spent a lot of time on grants, tracking grant revenues, making sure that expenses are where they should be and are spent on what they should be spent on. Those are some of the highlights of the things that they'll do while they're out here. They'll do fixed assets, which I'll finish probably this week. They'll review our fixed assets. And those are pretty much the highlights.
And will they go over to
Board of Ed.
Beecher?
Yeah, they go to the Board of Ed probably for a half a week, maybe
Yeah.
3 days, 4 days,
Okay.
something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, and they'll do the same thing. But because they just have mainly expenditures, we have a lot of different capital funds and operating funds, and we have revenues and
Yeah.
taxes. They spend a lot of time in a tax office,
Mhm.
making sure that the tax reports balance.
Yeah.
They test. They'll do a lot of testing, picking random transactions to make sure they are done properly.
Well, it's a very different book of business.
Right.
basically. Although it's the same amount of money.
Right. So we should probably have a draft audit report by probably the second week in November. It's usually right before Thanksgiving. We'll have a draft.
Okay. Woodbridge Board of Ed as an FYI, but I think, if I remember, now that I figured it out, the top thing where we see a $64,000 surplus is on a cash basis.
Right.
And then the other one is,
Right,
which is showing $147,000 year-end balance is on the accrual basis.
Correct. That's it.
So they're doing well on this.
Yep, they're doing fine.
And I'm sure you'll have more to tell us about that. All right. And FY 14 budget, this is the letter you sent out, Tony?
Yep. So this is just to let you know that we're going to be sending out the budget guidelines letter coming up, and for the departments to respond to. So we're just sort of kicking off the process here.
Anything else? Okay, funding requests, I guess we have one here that Jeff Kaufman's coming to speak about.
Right. He said he's on his way. He should be here shortly.
All right, well, why don't we just talk about the other one, which is a very, just an automatic thing. It's, as you remember, we agreed to match funds raised by the Human Services Department. 10,000?
Well, you agreed last year, right?
Yeah.
They would have thought maybe.
Oh, they thought it was still,
Maybe hopefully they have the same consideration.
yeah, I think it's, you know what,
It never hurts to
I
ask.
said, listen, you can ask and, you know, see what happens.
Anybody that can argue about putting money into a needy fuel and food and fuel fund, they can talk to any of us. I think this will be an especially difficult year because price of oil is.
Yeah, I can tell you they do a nice job of it.
Yeah, they do a really good job administering it
Yep,
and
they do.
delivering the money and the fuel or whatever, so
Mhm.
I think it's the least we can do. It's certainly, the people who get it certainly need it. It's never, it's never a case of, so I'll move acceptance of request for funding 1213-05 in the amount of $5,102.
Second? Oh, go ahead.
Okay, you got it.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. When Jeff gets here, we'll talk about this other one, which I think Andy must know something about too. Okay, approval of minutes. We have in front of us the minutes of our monthly September 20th meeting, and I'll move acceptance of the minutes for September 20th, 2012 as presented.
Go ahead, Andy.
Second, my
Second.
Okay, any adjustments, corrections, et cetera? Hearing none, all those in favor? Okay.
Aye.
Yeah, first selection.
Okay, since you last met, I attended a surprise 90th birthday party for Joe Calistro at the Country Club of Woodbridge. Of course, you know, Joe has served on many town boards and commissions over the years, so it was a very nice event. On September 23rd, we had the Civil War commemoration ceremony. We had a very large crowd for that, thanks to the efforts of Joe Hellauer, who coordinated that. And we had a little bit of Woodbridge history. Back in 1862, we celebrated the 150th anniversary of the Emancipation Proclamation. Back in 1862, Woodbridge had a population of 872 people. And out of that population, 61 men and boys served in the Union Army, including 2 African Americans.
Wow.
11 died. So it was, for a little town, we had quite a big role in the, relatively speaking, in the efforts of the Union Army. Don Menzies was a master of ceremonies. As I said, Joe Hellauer did a great job. Dr. Stella also participated. Professor Kimmick from Yale also participated. Max Ritchie, a student at Amity High School, was Abraham Lincoln, read the Gettysburg Address. And Dr. Marvin Aarons, our town historian, was his idea to put this all together. And then Muffy German assisted in doing some of the research about Woodbridge's participation. On September 29, I attended the 25th anniversary of the Amity Teen Center. And for those of you who have not been down there, it's quite a little operation there. They have a stage, they have a coffee bar, they have a lot of video games, and they have a lot of students who have participated in that. A number of them spoke, and how the services that are offered there have led them to feel much more comfortable in public speaking and participating, performing. So it was a very nice event. We got some good news about the Merritt Avenue Bridge. We hope we'll be breaking ground in March for the reconstruction, rebuilding of that bridge.
Yep.
That's great.
And then, of course, you heard about our fire marshal has resigned, and we reached a settlement through the efforts of David Ryan, where our former fire marshal will repay the town $26,000, $15,000 on November 1st, and then the remaining 11 over a 2-year period. I'm told that the Fire Commission has appointed a committee of, which includes also Tony and Joe Hellauer, to set up, advertise for the position, then interview applicants for that position, and then make a recommendation to the Fire Commission for that appointment. So that's my report.
Do you have any idea how long that Merritt Avenue Bridge, they're gonna let them come out the other way? Is that the way it's gonna work?
Correct, yeah.
Right.
Any idea how long
It should be finished before the snow flies and following winter.
it is gonna be a
So
9, 10
it's like
months?
6 to 8 month construction period.
So that's going to exit beyond Lucy Street at the light there? That's where the traffic's going to go in and out?
It's going to go in and out by Bradley Road.
By the ball
Bradley
fields.
Road.
They're gonna come out,
So you have to go through that.
there's a gate there now, I think
Yeah.
it blocks off
So it's going to
the,
come out?
Yeah.
It's going to be right by the parkway?
Correct.
there'll be more traffic.
That's the price we get for a new bridge.
Wow. Have to find a new way to get to the
No,
parkway.
I have all different ways of going.
Way to get to the parkway.
Okay, well, we might as well start some liaison reports.
Can I actually maybe ask a question about the fire marshal? So how will that responsibility to the town be handled until there is a new fire marshal?
Well, we have a deputy fire marshal at present, who is Terry Gilbertson, but I think they've made arrangements in the meantime for, and I can't confirm this, but I'm told that, I think it's someone from Bethany, is that?
They're still working.
They're working on that, okay.
They're getting an interim.
They will
Okay,
get an
so there
interim.
will be an
Yeah.
interim person. Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Go ahead, Joe.
Okay, Veterans Day is Sunday, the 11th of November. We will have our veteran ceremony out at the memorial. It will start at approximately 10:45 a.m. Shouldn't last longer than about 3/4 of an hour. Unfortunately, the Veterans Post here has lost their charter because of diminishing numbers. So after that thing, most of the Woodbridge folks are going to be transferring to the Bethany VFW. But we're going to run it just the way we've run it for the last 4 or 5, 6 years. And hopefully we'll get a good turnout and we'll get the good weather. With respect to the gas company, gas is flowing right now in the main building for the burners at Amity, in the kitchen at Amity, and in the field house up near the ball field at Amity. There is not gas flowing yet in the little maintenance shop, which is on the far side, but that's an internal situation they've got with their equipment. And I was with the chief engineer today for a couple of hours. We did a complete tour, and it's their problem, not ours, and they're happy. Amity's a very happy customer. We're still waiting. We have 3 buildings that we're going to fire up this fall. The first will be the library. The second will probably be the police department. We can't do the front end of the building because those are old burners, and when you order them, you look at 14 or 16 weeks. Well, that would get us right in the middle of winter, so we're going to hold off on that. And this building will be the other one. So we'll hopefully have those 3 doing gas. Those of you who use Beecher Road may notice that there's been some substantial repairs made on the paving where the pipeline went in, and it looks very good. The hydroseed that's been spread bountifully all over town, we've got a lot of green grass all over the place, so that's going well. And we have 2 residents that we're still working with to finalize their landscaping, and then hopefully we'll be all set. There's new curbing down here. They redid one of the connections down here this week, late last week, and the roads are now smooth. With respect to Center Road, that is something that's going to be worked on with the state because, you know, that's a state road. But Beecher Road is coming along well, so I think we're in pretty good shape. And that's it, Mr. Chief.
Okay. Jeff Hoffman is here. He's here to discuss the
Sorry about that.
request. That's okay.
How are you?
Request for $12,000 for AKF, I believe it is.
Yes.
And John Rice, I think we met him, I don't know if he ever came to the Board of Finance, but I know I met him. So. You want to just run through what this, first, what this is about, what he's proposing, and what...
Sure. So we've done pretty detailed analysis of what's going on in Beecher, and actually we feel like we are making a huge amount of progress. We had gotten proposals, I believe, from 4 or 5 different companies that actually come in and put the projects together and tell you where there are cost savings, because we're trying to find a way to pick up this huge tax credits available for all the things that we're trying to do in these buildings. And so we're trying to reap them. Obviously, they don't give them to us because we're town government, so you have to actually get someone else to get the tax credit, etc. We came down to 2 companies who were most interested in Honeywell and ESG, which is a Midwest firm who's looking to move to the Northeast. I think we probably all thought that Honeywell was going to look the best, and it happens that ESG at this point is substantially greater. Their cost saving, their energy cost savings are twice over $300,000, twice what Honeywell's was. And the other thing is ESG is passing on the tax credit to us, obviously not giving us a tax credit, but they're taking the tax credit and passing on the cost savings to us, which is great. So we're not hiring ESG. We're actually looking, and John's been great because he's basically been our consultant to do all this analysis on what's most efficient and the best way to proceed in the school. So this last phase is to now, we've pretty much said to Honeywell, we're leaning more towards ESG, and so ESG has about a 3 or 4 weeks worth of work they've been in the building to really go in and do a very detailed analysis of what's going on over there, and determine the equipment, just to confirm everything they've already been telling us. So we're not actually hiring ESG. We're basically, we're hiring John to follow through with us to obviously be our consultant and the expert, and then at the end of the process, then decide what our recommendation would be to the Board of Ed, Board of Finance, Board of Selectmen on what everybody wants to do in the school.
So how does that work, Jeff? We don't need tax credits, so we don't pay tax.
Right.
So how does that, I know there's a third party involved or something, or?
Yeah, we should really make Tony talk about this, but
I think Andy's,
Yeah, I mean, we can't take advantage of the tax
right,
credits.
exactly.
They take advantage of the tax credits and they pass those savings on to us.
Like ESCO or whatever we're talking
Yeah,
about?
right. So Honeywell,
And they
yeah.
pass it through to us based on the pricing.
Well, no, right, it said it would cost normally $500,000, we're only gonna charge you $300,000.
That's exactly.
Right.
So that's how they're able to pass it through to us.
Now, Honeywell, on the other hand, wasn't doing that, they were just taking it for themselves.
And the other difference is Honeywell's proposal was not based on all new infrastructure.
Right.
ESG's proposal is based on all new infrastructure. So every piece of mechanical equipment in that facility will be replaced. All the outside panels will be replaced. We're getting everything's going to be done.
So, but I wanna be really clear for everybody that we're not actually asking you,
We're not actually telling you we're hiring ESG. We're
Yeah.
actually not. We're
You need
really
the money
just
to-
we're just really talking about we want a consultant to follow through.
To
with
make a
this.
decision on the
Right.
best deal.
Right, and we will be in great, I mean, this is actually the last phase of our due diligence. I think we're gonna, and we've already gotten, the projects basically come from, it was over 20 down to 18, and I think now we're down to around 11. So,
So this is really validation that what's being proposed to you will actually work.
yeah, we have a lot of, validation. I mean, because we wanted to know it too, it wasn't really, I mean, obviously we needed to sell the town, but the real thing is we need to be convinced that all this works.
Go ahead, Andy.
They have given us estimated proposals and
Yes.
cost estimates.
Correct.
And what we really need, we're saying we want all those numbers validated.
Right.
Okay, we feel that, as Jeff said, we've come from 22 to 17 down to 11, and our goal is to get it down below 11. So So we need them to cost this out, and the numbers they give us, the savings are guaranteed, so we get those guaranteed savings.
Right.
We want the cost, them to validate all the cost estimates they gave us as being accurate.
They do, for good or bad, call this final phase with them
Negotiating. But, so it's a little dangerous to call it that, but we are gonna be there beating them up. That is the point. I mean, we've already done a little bit of it, and they've immediately said, okay. So this is part of the process. This is for these things. So I think we're going in a great
And are they
direction.
gonna look at both Honeywell and ESG?
No.
No.
So,
So,
You get to this point. They've done a huge amount of work and
Right.
they spent a lot of money to get to this point.
Correct.
Neither one of them will even stay in the game if we're going to start negotiating with both of them. So we had to pick one, and we picked the best one at this point. And so we'll negotiate with ESG. At the end, if we decide that the numbers don't work out, we get to say, okay, thanks anyway, and then we can always go back and talk to Honeywell.
Okay. So you're using the expertise of AKF
Yes.
to help you with the negotiation.
exactly.
Okay, okay.
Any other questions? Okay.
No, the Board of Selectmen hasn't.
Yeah, it's gonna be subject to.
Subject to the Board of Selectmen, we're meeting on next Wednesday, the 24th, to take this up at 6 o'clock, so.
There's two
This
things.
is all in preparation, so we can make a final proposal
Right.
Right.
to the Board of Education, the Board of Finance, and the Board of Selectmen. We need to go through this process so we can make our final proposal.
What is the timing on this?
Well, that's interesting you should say that. So I've asked them to send me, we're actually they're coming in on Friday. We're having
Tomorrow.
a meeting.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Okay.
Anyway, forgot about that. Yeah, they're coming in tomorrow.
Okay.
And they have actually given us a timeline, but it's already,
Out
you
of
know,
date.
yeah, no, it's not, well, they have board approval and signatures to execute a contract on 12/25, 12/24 or something like that. So we'll probably talk about that a little bit tomorrow.
Okay. So I guess what I'm trying to get at,
Jeff, is how long will their work take for the $12,000 that's here? And then when do you anticipate reaching some agreement if you decide to proceed with ESG?
Well, they're saying that their work is going to go all the way into December.
We actually
so
initially
that's
had
what-
led to
that's-
believe that it was only a 4-week process. Suddenly it looks like it's a little bit
Right.
longer.
Okay.
So, but,
Okay.
so once that's completed, I mean, if we still
Mm-hmm.
favor this company, then that's when we're ready to come to you guys and go to the town, make the sales pitch. I mean, part of their process and part of John's contract is to help sell this project. I mean, we're trying to keep it as expert-oriented as possible as opposed to volunteer.
Okay. But in terms of the scope of work, it's very loose in terms of saying attending meetings to present the project and answer questions at a joint meeting, a public hearing, and a special town meeting. So they're agreeing to come to 3 additional meetings
That's
once this
AKF.
proceeds.
That's AKF.
That's okay, yeah.
Right,
Right.
okay.
Yeah. But
But that's part of the $12,000.
That's
that we're
absolutely true.
paying.
He knows
Okay.
that his
I'm just
Listen,
confirming.
you're absolutely right, but also along with that is ESG will also be at all those meetings.
course.
They don't actually get paid to come to those meetings,
Correct.
but everybody wants the job.
Mhm.
So
Okay. And then on a longer term, if this goes ahead, we decide on ESG, you negotiate a contract, then obviously the funds have to be appropriated.
Correct.
But what is the timing of the actual work of the project? Is this a phase project over multiple years?
well, that's
Is
one of
it-
the things we're going to be talking about in the next month and a half, 2 months.
Okay.
That's actually
because we did, I will tell you, I mean, we started this I think a year ago, and we went into it saying we're going to take this 18 million and see if we can spread it out into phases. But now we've gotten it down so far, and the deals are so good. I mean, it's
Right.
unbelievable, actually.
Right.
So now we're on the fence.
Okay.
So,
But I would think it would be thinking of a minimum of 2 years to a maximum 3 years.
Okay.
Unless,
If it gets phased.
if you get phased,
If it's phased.
I would think on a phased basis.
And through the whole process,
we've been having everything laid out as though we're going to be phasing.
I mean, I'm impressed that you were able to
Cut it in half. That's pretty amazing.
we are too.
Amazing.
We're shocked. I mean,
Yeah.
it's because of money, it's because of
Mm-hmm.
all this energy stuff. It's pretty impressive.
Well, it's also because of, I think the focus was changed a little too.
Well, that is true.
Focus changed, and I think we were able to, I think the committee, we got very focused on certain things, and we had to decide what really was important to get done. And we decided that the infrastructure of that building, bringing in an infrastructure to replacing all the mechanicals and doing the infrastructure, preparing that for a new 20-year life, probably was what we had to focus on. So that's what we did focus on, and I think that from roofing to paneling to every piece of mechanical equipment. And this process we're going through now is to verify. I mean, their books are this thick.
Yeah,
Their
it's
engineering
amazing.
books are this thick from one of them. So we,
A lot of trees.
we don't want to be smart wrong, okay? So we want John and his people to verify that everything that we think we're getting, we are getting, okay? Even though they're guaranteeing the energy savings, we just want to make sure that every piece of equipment that is going to be replaced, so that's their job, is to come in and check everything against what is being proposed to make sure
Right.
that all these things are being done, from the panels to the roof to the air handlers, you name it. So hopefully that'll be done.
I will just say, again, it has nothing to do with this part, I don't want to be completely misleading. We have been having discussions with representatives from the Board of Ed, and there are certain things that we actually have pulled out of, we've prioritized.
Okay.
But we've pulled things out like, they say they want new cabinets. And we're talking to them, trying to get them to understand that if they did maintenance,
And they should be putting that in their operating budget, some of that stuff, as opposed to waiting for everything to fall apart, so now we want to get a bond for new cabinets. So so I'm actually telling you about it, so hopefully you guys will
Well, the other
buy
thing,
into that a little bit as well. But I mean, it's a good point with it. These things, they don't maintain. They think, okay, well now we're going to go build, we're going to throw everything in it, which is, I think, one of the reasons the number got so high.
Yes, it was, and that was actually my next question in terms of there were some cosmetic upgrades as part of the first project, so that there would be something visible for the students, the teachers, the town to actually see.
Well-
Are those all removed now?
No, they're not all removed. I mean, because we're talking about possibly new curtain walls. We're talking about a new roof. We are talking about new lighting. I mean, there are some things that people will see. They'll certainly go more comfortable.
Oh, absolutely,
So-
right.
and they've already, and based on our conversation, because we're working very closely with, the administration is in the meeting, they have begun to do things like painting and some of the things that they originally thought were going to be the scope of this overall program. They're not now waiting for these things to get done.
Okay.
They're implementing these things now themselves on their own. They're budgeting for that. They're getting it done. The only thing I wanted to add, the other thing that is included in our proposal, our scope of work was expanded because we were given responsibility to get the pool up.
Oh, right.
So
So you should understand that $11 million does include the pool.
It
It
does.
all includes the pool also.
That's great.
So that's included with that scope of work, which was not included in
point,
the other, in the original.
Now we
Feeling
are
like this is magic,
the other cosmetic.
But we do magic.
Yeah,
that's what
I
it is.
agree.
The other cosmetic part that we've well, not that we want to, but even if we did want to take out is some kind of a canopy at the front entry, because Dr. Stella pretty much says it every week. So we haven't said no to him yet. So assume there'll be a new front entry.
Oh, the canopy?
Okay.
Canopy, we have to deal- well, we haven't dealt with the canopy, we may have to deal with
But
the
we'll
canopy.
we're going to try to put that.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? Right, two things. First of all, this says line item transfer, it's request for funding,
Right.
correct?
Yep, correct.
So, you correct that? Okay. And also, I noticed in the it's not to exceed, do we have to say that, or should we just do 12,000? His proposal, the fee for this work will be charged on an hourly basis, and.
You could say not to exceed, sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, so then I'm gonna modify it to not to exceed.
Tony loves not to exceed.
I do.
Yep.
So-
I do.
Doesn't always work.
No, not,
It's worth trying.
it's good, it's a good starting
So
point.
just to summarize before we vote on this, number one, it's a request for funding, not a line item transfer. Number two, it's not to exceed $12,000. What was the third thing?
Subject to the
Subject
approval of the
to the
Board of
Board of
Selectmen on
Exactly.
November.
And we are
October 24th.
approving this subject to approval from the
Right,
Board of Selectmen, okay?
Right.
So with those caveats, is that?
Caveats, that's a good word, yeah.
I forgot to ask.
Know your last.
I forgot to ask. I'll move acceptance of request for funding 1213-06 in the amount of not to exceed $12,000.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice job.
I heard last week you guys don't get meals anymore. I
Yeah.
had no idea.
We're
Hey,
saving
Chef,
money.
We're trying to, yeah.
We're saving money.
Okay, so continue with liaison reports. As far as Amity goes, I attended the meeting Monday, and budget is pretty status quo. There's still a surplus, which is good. They came out with the enrollment numbers, and Woodbridge's percentage increased to 30.1%, which is a 0.4% increase. Nothing earth-shattering, but the main reason for that, I guess, a bunch of students from Ezra went to Amity, so they had an influx of students, and Amity's getting to be a desirable place to go. Everybody wants to go there. So, Orange is also up 0.4%, which is far more significant because they're now over 50% of the school population, which they've been under for a long time. And Bethany's went down by 0.8%. So while our percentage went up, I don't think it's going to be very much. It's just not that. It's not that big of an increase. There's also the only other thing I'll mention is, and I think Dr. Brady said he spoke to all three first selectmen about something to do with region. They're starting to talk about regionalization. Certainly, and in a meeting we had with the Board of Ed, talking about moving the 6th grade to the middle school, because kids are ready to move up, and there's space galore up at the school. And there's been very little resistance, I guess. And matter of fact, the people we spoke to from Beecher, they said they think it's a good idea. But I guess there's some push to take it even further and look at the whole. So I guess Amity's doing a RFQ, whatever it is, to look into the what's involved, et cetera, et cetera. Now, whether or not that will ever happen, that's a major step. But there's certainly some movement to do something, and I think a good start would be the 6th graders, because.
My understanding is that this study started out because Amity anticipates a decline in enrollment over the next 10 years. So they're looking for planning to the future about reducing staff or what is going to be needed. And then through, I think, Derry Gorski, since in Bethany, as I understand it now, the superintendent has resigned or retired.
He moved to Oxford.
Moved to Oxford.
really?
Yeah.
And so they're looking for a new superintendent, and then with some interest in the community to say, well, could we be a part of the Amity system? So with that understanding, Dr. Brady contacted me and also Jim Zioli, and he said we want to expand this project, this study, to include a possible what benefits or minuses and pluses in regard to a regionalization of the entire system, K through 12.
Wow.
There's no commitment on anybody, but it's a study to
No.
do that, and then
Yeah,
see where-
agreeing is the
surprised,
first step.
I was surprised that Jim Zioli was
Yeah.
acceptable, because they have this thing with the Amity.
Yeah.
So there is a meeting of Dr. Brady, this study committee that study group that they've appointed, and the first selectman, superintendent of schools, chairman of the Board of Education of the 3 towns, I think December 4th. I think that's the date, at 5:30, and Tony will be going, Dr. Stella will be there, chair of our Board of Education.
Wow.
You're welcome to come as well.
Ed, do you know, would that take a vote of the 3 towns?
It would.
Yeah.
But this is just preliminary. This is
Yeah,
doing a
no, I
study to
understand. I
get
understand.
data together.
And Amity is willing to fund the consultant.
They are,
They're
correct,
not
correct.
coming to, okay.
And what about just moving the 6th grade with it? people
That,
vote on
I don't know if that's, I mean, there was some talk about that, but I mean, that's not a proposal at the moment.
No.
Yeah.
No, I brought that up, that we, had been discussed, and he was more than willing to, because they have the space at the junior high schools. They were formerly 7th, 8th, 9th, now there's just 7th and 8th. And a lot of people have said, when they're in 6th grade, they're ready to try something different. They're mature enough to move up, and that would be a good start. We're in the minority. We are being Bethany Orange Woodbridge as far as this setup. There's very few regional school districts which are regional from 7 to 12 and 3 separate
Yeah,
entities
Elementary district.
in the elementary system. There's a few, very few, and they're much smaller than us. So it's something that people have talked about for years, but it was like a sacred.
This is
nobody wants to.
And there was legislation introduced in last year's General Assembly for school districts of under 1,000 to take efforts to regionalize.
Right.
If not, there would be certain, monies could be withheld and that sort of thing. So that did not pass, but there's no question the governor is starting to think about that.
Yeah.
Gonna do it again. Yeah.
So,
You should do it the other way around, provide money to incentivize
Yeah.
regionalization.
Yeah. But just at least they're talking about it. So.
And there's
There's-
only, about 5 or 6 regional districts in the whole state?
Oh, there's very few. Yeah, there's very
Okay.
few.
we've had 50 years of success with Amity.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm not complaining, but I think it's really interesting in terms of the timing of this.
Yeah.
And willingness to at least discuss it.
Oh, yeah. I was sure Orange would say, no, we don't want any, we have enough Amity. And
Yeah.
they're willing to talk, so. And that's about it. So
great.
I'll keep you posted on that. So, Sandy, we'll go around the table this way. There's nobody on this side.
Yes, unfortunately with the change in the date of the meeting to Tuesday, I was not able to attend either meeting, but I have the notes from the Library Commission.
Okay.
And I have to commend, Todd, our librarian. I mean, he really thinks ahead.
Yeah, by the way, he did a great job with this Civil War thing. He had a number of exhibits at the library,
Yes.
presentations, authors. So he did a wonderful job.
That's great. I mean, they were very excited about it. I mean, we have our meetings there, and you could see all the exhibits, and so I'm really happy there were so many people who came. And I mean, I'm complimenting him because I do think he thinks into the future, which is great. Even with the capital projects of, replacing the rugs and trying to phase this in over a period of years. He wants to actually wait for the self-checkout station, which is something that he had proposed, because he sees that the equipment costs are really coming down. And he feels we can put this off for another couple of years, before actually putting that into the budget. And he has a carpet equipment replacement plan that will take us to 2019. And so again, he's really trying to think about how do we do this in a fiscally responsible way. So he's been a really great asset. My understanding is that the RFP for the carpet project, the current one that we approved, has gone out, and there's a pre-bid meeting on October 25th, and then the project bidding on November 8th.
Correct.
The same date as the gas.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Same date.
They did actually approve hiring of a new library page, Emily Shee. And they did designate the week of November 5th through 10th as Food for Fines Week. In other words, they'll eliminate your fines for overdue books if you bring in some food for the needy. So that's actually a nice
Good idea.
balance. And Todd was complimented for his Civil War Commemoration Day.
As well, it should be.
He should be. And I'm sorry I did not get to the Woodbridge Board of Ed.
We met with him, so we got a scoop.
Yeah, I know.
David, you have class. Okay. Andy?
I was out of town on business.
Okay.
I missed a very important meeting.
Yeah.
I don't know, did either of you gentlemen attend?
The police commission?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did, yeah. So, nothing really to
Nothing
report.
Nothing to report.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, any motion to adjourn?
Second?
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you.